Welcome to Kitchen Chemistry, a series where we do a few experiments in my home and you can copy them along in your home. Mostly in the kitchen, obviously, that's why it's called Kitchen Chemistry. This is aimed at people of all ages, and so there is a mixture of different difficulty levels and different understanding levels of chemistry. But never mind about that, let's do some chemistry. If you need to know about safety, which you do, read the instructions in the text below. We're going to make indicators today. You might have done this at school, but you'd have used something like fruit juice, or maybe if you were in Europe, red cabbage or beetroot or something. But we're going to use something different that doesn't smell so bad and that is easier to get all over the world. So what we're going to use is turmeric. This is turmeric here. It's a powdered form, but you can use this root if you can get a hold of it. Also, we're going to use some tea. Black or green, it doesn't really make much of a difference. We're going to need a cup and some hot water to make some actual tea out of it, and we will need some alcohol to extract the color from the turmeric later. I'm going to use this green alcohol, which is for burning here in Germany, but you could also use vodka or any other clear spirit. We're not going to use a lot, so it's not going to cost you a fortune or get your parents upset. We will also need some paper and some kitchen roll. The paper is going to be our indicator paper. The kitchen roll is going to clean things up, and it's also going to act as a filter. It's going to need a funnel. We're going to have some glasses that you can see assorted glasses lying around because of places to put the tea in. And what's the other thing? Vinegar and baking soda, so that we've got examples of acid and bases. You can use lemon instead of vinegar, but you can't use baking powder instead of baking soda because the baking powder has acid in it and the base as well. First of all, I'm going to make some tea in this cup here using some water that I'm storing out of shot in a kettle. Just put the tea bag in the cup and add some boiling water. Because we're not going to drink it, we don't need to worry too much about the flavour, preheating the cup and stuff that we might normally do. And nobody's going to be upset if the tea isn't perfectly extracted. In reality, being a proper tea drinker, I've heated up the cup and I'm going to pour this boiling water onto it, make a proper cup of tea because I can't stop myself. What I actually want here is a relatively pale tea liquor, and so I'm going to pour it out into these little tiny shot glasses afterwards so that it's easier to see for you and for me, and you should probably do something similar. Pour it out, let it go cold. Obviously don't drink that bit. We're going to add some vinegar to it, so it's not going to be nice anyway. For the purposes of testing, I need 4 glasses here. I need one for normal, just water, one for acid, which I'm going to use this aceto balsamico that I've got lying around, one for baking soda, and one for heated up, boiled up baking soda. So that's 4 different versions. Now we're going to prepare our turmeric. So what we need is a piece of paper folded in a simple filter, which means you fold it in half, like this. You fold it in half again. Most of you will know how to do this. It's not, it is science. We need a funnel because otherwise it'll dribble everywhere. And we want to make a turmeric solution in our ethanol, and so we're going to put in about a teaspoon into this cup here and then add some ethanol and then filter it through the kitchen paper. Whoops, look at that, I've made a mess already. It's a good job there's a kitchen roll handy so that I can clean it up. Don't get turmeric all over yourself, it dyes yellow and it's very difficult to get it out of your clothes. That's why it's a good idea to wear an apron in the kitchen. Squirt some ethanol in there, 10 to 30 millilitres. We don't want too much. Obviously, if it's expensive alcohol, use less. This is cheap. This is the point where you would actually use a funnel, but I thought I would try it without. Let's see what happens. So we're going to try to balance this bit of paper inside another glass and tip the nasty, slimy turmeric solution through it to filter out the bits. So here we go, balancing it on there and pouring it through. This works most of the time, although a funnel is much better if you've got one. This actually filters reasonably quickly. It's not perfectly clear, but it's okay. So what I'm now going to do is dye my bit of paper yellow by dipping it into the turmeric solution. I'm going to throw this wet alcohol-y filter paper into the sink immediately so that it can't make a mess on my nice floor. Put in this piece of printer paper, getting the tea out of the way, putting the piece of printer paper into my alcoholic turmeric solution. It's going to suck it up. It leaves it a very light yellow colour, but it does darken up over time. Once the paper is nice and wet with ethanol, it's time to take it out and let it dry. Make sure it doesn't touch anything in this time because it'll dye everything that it touches a nice bright yellow colour, and it's quite difficult to get it off. So I'm going to put it on this handy tea container that just happened to be there. The rest of the solution is a very dark dye solution, and it smells very strongly of alcohol. So cover it up if you're going to keep it for anything, and get rid of it immediately if you're not going to, because if you spill it, it'll make a yellow mark on everything. So while that's drying, we will first of all tidy up and then get our solutions ready for the next step. So what we're going to do now is make a solution of baking soda in water. It will be about 1 teaspoon in 30 millilitres. And then we're going to divide it into 2 little pans. One of them I'm going to heat up and the other one I won't, because I want to convert one into sodium carbonate like we had last time, and the other one not to. Here's a little bit of distraction where I got some baking powder, but it didn't work, so we will ignore that bit. Moving on to the baking soda, which is what we really want. Pour some water in. I'm going to make a pretty much saturated solution, so there's still some solid on the bottom of this. It's refusing to dissolve. Baking soda takes a long time to dissolve, so it's not a properly saturated solution, but it's very strong. I'm going to leave the bits in the bottom and just pour the liquid out so that we've got a very concentrated solution of baking soda, which is quite basic. But the boiling process, which bubbles off some carbon dioxide as we saw last time, makes a stronger base. It means it's more anti-acidic than the original stuff. So that's what we're going to do now. It'll take me a little time to do this, so I'll fast forward over this a little bit because it's going to be boring for you. What I'm going to do is warm it up on the stove till it gets to nearly boiling. Let it stay at that temperature for a while, which is the same as we did last time, and then let it cool back down again because we don't want it to be too hot. As you probably saw flying past, I also tipped some vinegar into this cup. It's a bit smelly, but it's all right. It's just normal vinegar. 4 teas ready, and what I'm going to do is add a little bit, a few drops, maybe half a teaspoon of vinegar to the first one, which is on your right, my left. Give it a bit of a stir with the wrong end of a teaspoon because I don't know how to use spoons for some reason. As we can see, it changes colour almost immediately. It gets a little bit lighter. It's kind of difficult to see from here, but if I hold up this bit of paper, you can see it just. You can see the difference to the next one. All the others are the same, it's just the light, so there I am moving it over to show you that it does get a little bit lighter. If you do it yourself, it's way more obvious. If we take the turmeric paper and dip it in, absolutely nothing happens. It looks exactly the same afterwards as it did before. It's just a little bit wet. That was kind of boring. Moving on, so I'm going to leave the next one as normal, put in some of the baking soda solution in the third one from the right, from your right, and then some of the boiled baking soda or heated baking soda solution in the final one. I'm also going to do the turmeric test strips at the same time, but I'm going to go a bit faster through this because, yeah, it takes a long time. What we all really want to see is the result of this, which is the colours that they have turned in the different solutions to see whether there's any difference. Obviously, the getting there takes a little bit of time. So now we're going to take our camera over and have a look a little bit closer at our tea and turmeric. You can see the tea on the right is lighter than the others. That's the acid one. And you can see that the two turmeric on the left, the base ones, appear to be slightly red. Looking at this tea, maybe the basic ones are slightly darker. Actually, when you're there, they do look darker, but you can see the turmeric in the acid does nothing. The tea in the acid goes lighter. The tea in the base does very little. It gets slightly darker, but the main change is in the acid, and the turmeric, the main change is in the base and not in the acid. Just move that over there so we can see the difference a little bit closer. And hopefully have a look at the turmeric, and then I will, there we go, have a look at the turmeric. So we've got our two wet bits of paper which do nothing in acid and water, and the two in base which go completely red, much the same color whether it's the baking soda or the boiled baking soda. And running back to the normal position for our camera, if we put base in the acid version and piss some on the table while I'm at it, we can see that we can make the color go back to normal tea color, and if I add more to it, it goes to the sort of darker color of the basic tea, but I am diluting it at the same time. Not going to drink that one because it's going to be pretty horrible. And we could also add some acid to the other ones to make them go lighter, which I'd forgotten that I'm actually going to do right now. So I probably should have checked that before I made this little bit of voiceover. Here I go, making it lighter again. It's obviously not quite so impressive this way round because adding some acid to it dilutes it. But it does lighten up. It takes a little bit longer. The tea indicator is a bit of a slow indicator. I'm going to also pour some acid on this red one. Oh, it's gone very red now over that time. As you can see, the turmeric is also not the fastest. And there you can see, yeah, it's gone yellow in the place where the acid went. Wasn't very effective, partly due, oh, there we go. Now it's finally done it. So this reaction is reversible. It goes forwards and backwards. We can end up in the same place that we started at if we change it from an acid to a base and back to an acid again. And we've also established that the point at which the two measurement systems, the two different dyes, change color is not the same one. And this is what's really going on. So we've got this complicated molecule which is called curcumin, which is reminiscent to our German customers of their name for turmeric, which is curcuma. So they'll be able to recognize that simply. They can't use K's and C's, but they can otherwise invent the name for the chemical that's inside turmeric that causes it to be yellow. The top chemical is the yellow form, and you can see the red hydrogen on there is the one that's going to be lost. If we make it basic enough, so if we put some carbonate in there that likes to accept protons from acids, it likes to accept hydrogens from acids, it will take that hydrogen away from our curcumin and make the negative ion. So it's lost an H+, so it's become negative, and you can see on that oxygen where the red H was in the bottom molecule, there is now a negative charge instead. If we make it acidic again, then we can put that proton back on. If we look this up on the internet, we can see that that changes around a pH of 7 to 8. So that's why it happens in basic conditions. And the tea color compounds are slightly more acidic, so they happen in acid conditions, although there are a lot of those, so they change over a longer range. And maybe at home you can see the darker colors, which we couldn't see on camera very well. What I'm going to do now is extra material. It is something that I'm going to show you, but I don't think you should do. It's not part of the kitchen chemistry sort of exercises or fun. It's just something that I think you should see. Because I'm going to use some bleach, this is chlorine bleach, and obviously that is not nearly as safe as the other chemicals that we've used. So I don't recommend that you do it. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a little bit of bleach onto the turmeric paper and into the tea. We will see exactly what happens when I do that. being very careful not to get it on anything. So first of all, in the tea, tip it in, we can see it goes a dark brown colour, which suggests that the bleach is a very strong base. Dip in turmeric paper, it goes a very strong red colour, also agreeing that the bleach is a strong base. Bleach typically is if it's a chlorine bleach. And over time we will see the colour fade as the bleach effect takes place, where it is breaking some of the structure of the molecule and changing it. That part is not reversible, so it doesn't go back. And we can see on our turmeric paper that it's gone almost completely white now, even though it was red before. And the tea has gone back to a tea colour. The reason that I don't think you should do this is, it's not that safe. Because obviously having bleach lying around in the kitchen is not very nice. Now the tea has almost completely disappeared. It's gone to a very light yellowy colour, and the bleach paper is almost back to being completely the same colour as it was before. So that'll do for today. I suggest you don't use the bleach because it isn't safe to have out mixed with food substances in the kitchen. All of the rest is reasonably safe. But be careful in the stuff that you do, and hope to see you next time.